Good day. My name is Abdulkabir Akinlabi. So, we want to start a part of programming that is very, very crucial that we'll continue to use till our life cycle of becoming a programmer. So, we'll continue to use them. So, and that is known as loop. You can see I have written it here, loop. So even in English language, loop means something you will be repeating. So to loop over certain structures. So I've not been using all these theoretical aspects, but I believe this one is important. I have to explain. So you have to listen very well. Looping is iterative structure or control structure that involves executing the same number of code at a number of times until a certain condition is met. You understand? Take for instance, you can see this certain condition, I made it to be red. Don't forget, so that it will be ringing in your brain. That's why I made it red color. Sometimes there are many times you need to repeat certain things until a condition is met. Let's take for instance, you want someone to withdraw as much as he can from his account number until the amount of money in his bank is less than the number of money he wants to withdraw. That is looping. You want someone to be printing their admission letter until the person's status is equal to false. Take for instance, you say, okay, admission status is equal to true, you should print admission letter. So far as the admission letter is true, you continue to print your admission letter, except if the admission status is false. So that is first slide. Now let me give you an example. Of looping involves, let's take for instance, you want to print from 1 to 100. Will you be typing, let me do something, will you be doing like this, 1, 2, 3 and so on? So that will be somehow outrageous, or somehow it will look somehow you printing something like that. So you have to use program. These are the kind of programs that are being run in the academic environment, in the settings, in the universities. You say write a programming language that will do this, print from 1 to 100. So let's take for instance, we want to do timetable. We want to do 10 times 1 10, 10 times 2 20, 10 times 3 30. You see, instead of you can see all these ones that are in red color. They are the ones that are dynamic. You see this 10 is constant. So 10 times 2 20. These 2 will be changing, these 3 will be changing, and 30 also will be changing. So those are an example of looping. Now let me take you to another level, and that is printing admission letter of all students. Let's take for instance, we have several students in our database who have been admitted, and we want the admission letter to come out with different names. Probably we have saved the names inside a structure, probably a database. So that is why I'm going to brush through array today. So that's why I said we will slightly branch a variable that stores more than a data. What we have been working on before is to declare a variable. When you declare the variable will only store one data. So we have another kind of variable that will store multiple data. So you can have multiple data inside array. So another type of data structure is database, which we are getting into. You remember those days when you are inserting into a database. So database is a kind of storage location, permanent one. But array is a temporary storage also, but it can take more data. So I'm going to branch there today in order to explain this looping. So I want you to be following. Programming is all about following. I always repeat it for you. You have to follow. Now the next slide, what are the kind of loop we have? We have while loop, as the name even suggests. You have while. While the status of admission is, or while the person's name is inside the array, the person should be able to print his admission letter. We have also one called for loop. We have for each. For each is a kind of looping you use to loop through several data structures. You also have do while. I suppose to write it like this. You do a certain certain operations while these conditions are true. So that is it. Okay, let me start with for loop. You understand? So please, you have to follow me. This for loop, the syntax is like this. Look at the syntax. For, you initialize you initialize so you initialize your variable. Don't worry, you are going to get it. You now this thing has the meaning of this one. Every statement in PHP, you terminate it with semicolon. Then the condition that this thing must meet, then you increment it. You understand? Just follow this syntax. Let's take for instance for, you understand, for variable I is equal to 0. That's initialization. This is the initialization. You initialize something. It can be, variable. You know how to declare variable. That's why programming it's dependent on one another. If I don't teach you how to declare variable, you won't know this one. You can see I have for I is equal to 0. That's initialization. Are you getting it? You can say I is equal to 2. This is the condition. So far as I is less than 10, that's the condition. Then what should happen after that? I plus plus means you should increment the I with 1. That's the meaning of I plus plus. It could be decrement. It could be I minus minus. So when we get to data arithmetic operations, I'm going to explain this better. So I plus plus means you should increase I by 1. That's I plus plus. Now after saying this this for loop, then this program will run. This program, this calibracies, that means products. I declare a variable called products. Declaration of variable is normal. Products is equal to 10 times I. So that means that what I want to type here is I. 10 times I. Look at I here is 0. So 10 times 0 is what? Is 0. It's going to increment what? You're going to check, is I less than 10? That's 0 is less than 10. Then it's going to increase I by 1. At that time, this time here, I will now be what? 1. So when after timesing I am 10 times 0 here, this time around is going to be here. Let me write a comment here. It's going to be 10 times 0 here, which is equal to what? 0. After that, it's going to print the product of 10 times 0 is the variable supposed to be here, is the answer to this product. That means that this time around, this here is going to be 10 times 0 is equal to 0. Then after that, it's going to increment it with 1. That means I is now what? I is now 1. Is now going, this time around is going to come back, say 10 times 1 is equal to 10. 1 I is now 1 now. Then later on is going to increment it again to 2. 10 times 2 is going to give you the answer, and it's going to be stored inside this variable. So by the time you see the result, I think the best thing is for me to just copy this this code, go to my what's it called? Okay, I'm going to declare PHP. Normally you do PHP something like this. I'll spend 9 minutes. So because I'm checking my this thing. So we have here echo something like this. Don't forget our calibracies. You understand? So let me explain again. I is equal to 0. This is initialization. I is less than or equals to 10. This is the condition. Then I plus plus. Now let me save this in inside my training. I will call it for loop. Let me go inside trainings. For loop on .php. Let me widen this so that you can see it very well. This is for using for loop. You see, this time around you are just going to practice. You are still just going to practice this thing like this. It's not that you have a project that you can use. You can think of something you do that will make it real. So this is for loop. For I is equal to 0. You just declare a variable is equal to 0. no, don't worry, let me just run it so that it will be clearer. For underscore loop dot php. Okay, there is syntax error there. Let me go and check it. Line 2. Okay, I plus plus. I'm supposed to terminate it here. So you know all these ones here, they are just like single line sent, just as if you are doing something like this. You know, in every PHP this thing you are going to, you understand, but it's always good that you put it. What am I? Localhost training for loop. Okay, I'm still having syntax error, unexpected plus plus. Let me check. You know, I told you that I is less than 10. Error is your friend. I plus plus. Yes, let me check. Okay, I think I have seen this thing. You know, this is variable I. It's supposed to be variable. So yes, this is it. Variable I plus plus. I think it should work now. Oh, still not working. I variable I is less than 10. Variable I plus plus. Please let me check. Okay, yes, I plus plus. I'm not supposed to terminate it here. So now you can see we have the product of 10 times 0. This time around 0, I is 0, is because is 0. So after running this code, this same code is now going to increment I by what? By 1. So it's going to do 10 times 1 and store it inside the variable product. See variable product here. When you sit down, you check. When you check your output, you understand, and you think on why is this thing. You know, this one they are just what's it called? They are just string. You know, you can change anything, you can write anything. The product of 10 times this thing is this. So that is that for loop. You can do for loop to do several things also. So try and do something that will, maybe when you say, okay, let me initialize this thing to be 2 here. So far as it's going to, I is less than or equals to I is less than 10. So that means that it's going to start from 2. The product of 10 times 2 is this. And so far as I is less than 10, you understand? But if I put I is less than or equals to 10, that means that it's going to include 10 as part of it. I is less than or equals to 10. So that means if you watch this place, you see that it's going to increase. You see 10 times 10 is this. So far as, let me put maybe 17, it's still going to do the timetabling to 17. You understand? So try and check and do something, because I have let me check the time I've spent, because I have okay. Oh, I have paused it before in my stopwatch. So now let me move straight to another type of loop. Okay, for each. Okay, this for each, you know, there is no, okay, what I've written here, I said, can you imagine when people have been admitted, we need to print admission for each of them without repeating the admission letters. So we need to declare a variable for each of the data in the data set. Let's assume I have look at admitted students. You know I told you that I'm going to branch array. Initially, when you declare variable like this, variable admitted students, you know, before we used to write the value of the variable. But when you want to write an array is something that store more data. So this is an array. Now we have Abdulkabir, Hakim, Kudus. So all these array are going to be stored inside what's it called? Inside admitted students. I think the best thing for me is to just do another PHP, so that I will quickly teach you how to do our array. You know, initially when we say variable sample variable A equals to Abdul Kabir, you understand, you terminate. So you now echo variable, let me save it. That's why it's, so I'm going to save it as inside my training as This course may be longer. I think I'll spend 13-15 minutes. Okay, so let me call it for each dot php for each dot php. So now echo variable a. You understand what is going to happen? Let me this one is for each dot php. So it's going to echo only Abdulkabir. That's the normal variable we know. But when you are declaring an array can store multiple data. That is why you must have to, when you want to declare an array, we will enter into array. So array is going to be inside this curly braces. So you now have different data: Abdulkabir Akinlabi, or let me just write just the names. No, that's one data. Sikiru, another data, comma, don't forget your comma. Let me put Aziz, another data. Let me put Alex is a nice guy. Alex, let me put another person, Ali. So don't forget, array is terminate your every PHP statement. So now we have an array. You know, this is how we print array. Normally when you want to print an array, the variable and the index of that, if I put the index of 1, that means I want to, array starts from 0. That's when we get to array. This index 0, this index 1, this index 2, and so on. So if I should echo variable this array, the index of 1 is going to echo Sikiru. Okay, I have not saved it. Let me save. Okay, I have not saved it. So this time around it's going to echo Sikiru. If I put index 2, that means what I'm doing is I'm echoing each of the elements of an array. That's what I'm doing. Let me save it. So this time around it's going to echo Aziz. But that's not where we are going. So now look at, we now do for each admitted student as the name of the new variable. Let me explain here. What we want to teach is for each statement. You see, we are getting to an aspect of programming where you need to calm down. You calm your nerves. If you have an issue with maybe something logical, you just need to just wait. When you are seeing the output of your results, you will understand. This admitted student, that is okay. That is where all these arrays are. Let's assume these are students. You understand? We now want to declare a variable that's going to hold each of these students. That's why we said for each. We now use for each statement. For each admitted student as individual admission, or you can call it any variable. So okay, let me go and do it. Let me call this one students. Now I will now say for, you put your for each. Now you declare a variable for each student as, that means that each of these things inside student, you now put it as a new variable, maybe I, or you understand, just put something as I. That means that this I now is now representing each of these this data. So after doing that for each, you now run the code that is going to be running multiple times. So for each student as I, or as admitted student, just call it anything. But let me first of all call it as I. Now echo I. The meaning is that now echo I is now going to be echoing each of all these things one after the other. That is how to get into elements of an array. For each, by the time we are getting to using database, we are going to appreciate all these things. But just do exactly what I'm doing. That's why in this kind of lesson, I will not give you tasks. So I will only expect that you practice it the same way and you understand it. So the meaning is that the next video is not going to take a long period. So probably tomorrow, next tomorrow. So that is how I do the calculations. Now for each student, the student has multiple data. I now store it as I. So now echo I. You know, normally if I echo I, it's going to echo all the students like this, but let me echo it with break tag. You know, that's where HTML comes to place. So now, what is name of for each? Now let me repeat. No, there is a syntax error there, unexpected this. So line 6, just go and check. So that means that nobody is above mistake. So that means I did not concatenate it with you know, when you this is a string. So that's the meaning. You know, you can see that it's real time. So you can see Abdulkabir, Sikiru, Aziz, Alex. So that means you are iterating through elements of an array. So you can use this one to store data for now. You can store different data and iterate through it. Now, how do we do it? How do we print the admission letter? We can now say there. Let us echo there. Concatenate it with I, variable I. Concatenate again. You have been admitted into the University of Ibadan. You understand? So you have been, okay, my semicolon is there. Semicolon is, you must terminate your this thing with semicolon. You see, let me tell you something. In when you do for each, and if you get to database, using database, you know, database has the name, the department, and this thing. So you can now, after using for each, you can now do, you have been admitted to study based on the line that is. Let me show you one of our what we did those days when we were treating. I think I should have it here. I think it's school. Okay, this is an online database. Sorry, localhost PHP my admin. I want to show you the, what's it called, all those data we've been using initially. Okay, this we use, I think we were using this school. This ABC school. So you can now say, okay, dear, let me look at student information. So you can now say, dear Abdulkabir Akinlabi, you are admitted to GSS2 at the department of this. So based on this looping here, don't just worry, just take this one. This is a single single dimensional, one dimensional array. So by the time we now have where is our for loop? I want to check where our for loop is. Anyway, for each, let me repeat it again. For each. Oh, for each. So you can see, dear Abdulkabir, you have been admitted into the University of Ibadan. That is stop. Then dear Sikiru. So that means that you need to what? Add the what? Concatenate it again with a break tag. So you can see, dear Abdulkabir, dear Sikiru, dear. So you can see, by the time you follow this, you appreciate what looping is all about. Instead of me repeating the same thing one after the other. So you can see that is how it is looping. So this one is for each. Now I must have to finish it. I think I have also, but I didn't try that one. Okay, while loop. Now let me do another this thing, PHP. That one we can declare a variable. We can declare a variable known as maybe let us call it I equals to 0. You understand? I equals to 0. Let me save it as while. I think I have while loop already inside that. Let me check trainings. Okay, I have while loop already. Let me go and check it. Oh, I've closed. Sorry, I closed the bracket. So you start thinking, if you are getting this loop, when you get loop, just keep it in your mind that okay, I've gotten it. You keep it in your mind, then this while loop, let us use it to print one to what's it called? Okay, look at something here. I wrote something here. I said I declared a variable. This is not while loop. I'm just trying to repeat what animals list. So I put lion. I now declare for each animal list as array list. So print array list. So it's going to print all these animal lists one after the other. But I don't think I need all these ones. So this is what I need. Look at, I declare, let me call this one I, or I, variable I is equals to 0. So while I is less than 30, that means that it cannot, this I, when it, by the time it's iterating itself, so iterate I, by the time it's iterating itself, it will not iterate more than what? So now let me explain. I is equals to this one. This one is initialization. Here, I comment it out. So this is the while statement. While condition. This is condition. You know, it's different from that for loop. So this is the condition. I is less than 30. So this code should run echo I, then increment it with what? With 1. So by the time I is coming here, I is less than, so now echo I. So this one is going to echo 0 now. Again, after echoing 0, you now add it I to be what? To be 1. I plus 0 plus 1, 1. It should go to up again. And this one is now going to be 1. So it will check this condition. Is 1 less than 30? Okay, it's okay. Run this one. It's going to print 1 this again. It should now come here, increase the 1 by 1 again, 2. It's going to go up. Is 2 less than it's going to make this one to be 2. Is 2 less than 30? Is going to be yes, until it gets to 29 or 29. When it gets to 29, you check, is 29 less than 30? Yes. It should now go to until it gets to 30. When it now gets to 30, now say 30 is less than 30. You know 30 is not less than 30. 30 is only equals to 30. So it should now stop at 29. So let me go and check that while loop. I think I have it already. So you can see while it's printed this thing up till what? Up till 30. So you know that the initialization is 0. So you can decide to echo anything that the printing is this. The printing, if you want to check, let's assume you want to print even numbers and what's it called? Let's assume we want to print all odd numbers. That means that we are going to add this one I plus is it plus 1? So if you want to print all I plus 2. So let me see what is going to happen here. Okay, I have not saved it. Sorry, I want to check I plus 2. So we have I here. I plus 2 is going to be 3. Then it should not bring okay, I is equals to sorry.